Hello, historians. All right, we are going to be preparing for our first RST. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you break down a prompt for an RST writing task. On the left, you will see my prompt, my RST prompt. And then on the right, I want you to imagine that this is a magic sheet and this is my planning sheet for this task. Okay, here we go. So the first thing I'm going to be looking for is just like the main idea and any like context or background knowledge that I need to know in order to understand what I'm writing about. So I'm going to be coding for that first. The ancient cultures of Egypt and Mesopotamia helped to develop civilization today. Okay, so right away I kind of have an idea of the topic. Ancient Egyptians developed a civilization in northeastern Africa in the Nile River Valley. Ancient Egypt was an advanced civilization in many areas, including religion, architecture, transportation, and trade. Okay, so I know the where it was located and kind of what they're important, the why it's important. Ancient Mesopotamia was one of the first civilizations that developed a form of government. Okay, so why it's important. And they organized political states. Okay, so now I kind of have an idea of like the context. I still am not sure what kind of essay I'm going to be writing, so I need to continue searching for that. You have reviewed texts about the characteristics of both civilizations that you can use to formulate your ideas and arguments. These sources are, and they list a bunch of sources. Okay. Write an informative essay that addresses which factors contributed to the success of the Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations. Okay, so right here, this sentence is the one that's like the action sentence. This is the one that's telling me what I need to do. So, first thing I need to code is the fact that this is going to be an informative essay. I'm going to make myself a little note. Informative has the word inform in it, so I know right away I am going to be explaining and not persuading or arguing. Okay, I keep going. I know that it's asking me to explain which factors contributed to the success of both of these civilizations. So I'm specifically going to be reading my sources, looking for these factors. So now I know what I'm reading for. I know my reading purpose. So this is not a question. This is like a statement. And it's really helpful for me as a writer to know the question that I'm going to be answering. So I'm actually going to pause right now in my RST reading, my prompt reading, and I'm going to go to my planning sheet. I know that I have to inform, and I know what I'm looking for, and I'm just going to take that one statement and turn it into a question that's easy for me to understand so that I know that I'm looking for the answer to that question as I read each source. So when I look at this statement, this is the question that I come up with. Which factors contributed? Contributed is another way to say caused or led to. So I'm actually going to simplify it a little bit. Which factors led to the success of the Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations? So that's my question. I wrote that at the top of my planning sheet. This is what I'm going to be looking for with every source that I read. Now, the last part, my last step, is to find out how many sources I have to include in my writing in order for me to get a high score. So support your ideas with evidence from at least 3 of the 6 sources. Okay, so at least 3. You may refer to the sources by their titles, and then they list them there. Okay, so on your planning sheet, if you know you have to use 3 sources, or however many sources they tell you, that will help you figure out how many boxes you need to make on your planning sheet. So for me, I'm just going to quickly sketch this out here. I'll have my thesis will be at the top, and then here are my boxes. So I'll have evidence from one source here, evidence from another source here, and evidence from a third source here, and then this space below is for my conclusion, and this space up here is for my thesis, which we'll get into later. So I'll have, as I'm reading, I'm going to write my evidence in box 1 for one source, then in 2, and then in 3, and on the other side is where I'll jot down my ideas for my interpretation and my analysis. We'll get more into that later, but this just kind of shows you how when you break down the prompt and you code these things, you figure out what your question is going to be and how you want to set up your paper so that you are including all of the things you need to get a high score.